I got to say this. We talked about this last time. The Dodgers are back in a homestand, I think, right? Or at least they were. I was watching them on the last couple of nights. And they have refused to even let us know where all of the cardboard cutouts that I paid $1,000 for are in their stadium. They initially said, we're going to put them in a prominent location where you'll be able to see them. We had a lot of people who listen to the show and watch Dodger games. Nobody has seen me, Danny G, or Roberto. Have people seen I know they've seen yours, right?
Yes, I have been located. I knew exactly where it was. The Dodgers are the ones that requested us and put us up. So I'm not trying to one-up you or Danny G. I don't think you're
one-upping us. I think you're dunking on us because the Dodgers requested for you to be involved in this. I paid my own money for the three of us to be involved, and they just won't even respond to Danny G when he asks where our pictures are. We're not even sure that they exist. I think they might have just put us in the bathroom.
Yeah, I am in the front row, about one person down from my radio partner, Bob Uecker style, in the front row, and I had to send 3 or 4 different pictures because the ones I was sending they didn't like. They had logos of things on them and different stuff like that. I had to turn my hat around backwards and all kinds of different stuff. But, yeah, your obsession with your cutout at Dodger Stadium and locating it where there are a great deal of cutouts. I mean, a lot of cutouts.
I just think if we gave them $1,000, and by we, I mean I wrote a check from my personal funds for $1,000 to the Dodgers after they told Danny G that they were going to put the three of us in a place where we would be visible. It's at least reasonable for someone at the Dodgers to actually respond to Danny G's emails and let us know where we actually are, given the fact that they've already broken the promise that we're going to be visible because we've got a big listening audience and a lot of people who watch Dodger games, and they've been in no way capable of actually seeing us.
Well, I, as a matter of fact, know people at the Dodgers. They own 49% of AM 570 LA Sports, which you got correct earlier, and I want to give you a tip of the cap. Much obliged on that, Clay. But I will effort some kind of explanation.
You will broker a détente.
Yes, without disrespecting Danny G, who's a proud Angelino. Yes. I might have to intervene here and do some kind of arbitration and locate your cutouts. I have a man at Dodger Stadium who can go get photos of those things. So these things can be handled, but with respect, I think.
Yes. That would be much appreciated. Yeah, respectfully indeed. Speaking of respectfully, later tonight the Clippers play Game 7 against the Denver Nuggets. Now, I think the fact that this series is even going on has escaped a lot of people's recognition because football came back and Monday Night Football happened, and there was such a glut of excess that people were obsessed with being able to enjoy that they didn't even maybe know that Game 7 is going to happen. The Clippers, if they lose this game, what is the impact in L.A. for Clippers who just seem to always, you would know this better than me, but they seem to always get close and then fail?
Well, first of all, the Clippers have one of the best owners in sports.
Yes.
In Steve Ballmer. And he's a donor of millions and billions of dollars toward the Clippers being great. He's going to build a new stadium in Inglewood. But the only thing I can think is that somebody went to Egypt, probably Donald Sterling, and desecrated some kind of mummy tomb because it is incredible. Way back when I first started in sports radio, they had Mike Dunleavy at Elton Brand's team and Daniel Ewing. Remember him? I think he was from Duke. A big mistake on an inbound play, and they didn't make it to the conference finals. And then there was the Doc Rivers epic meltdown with the Houston Rockets at Staples Center maybe 6 or 7 years ago, where they didn't make it. They just can't make it to the conference finals. And people were writing articles a week ago saying, when they were up 3-1, that the Clippers are going to break the curse. They don't even care. They got Kawhi. It's over. And then literally, like watching a movie, it's like the mummy shows up and he points his crooked finger and yells, "Curse!" And it's amazing. I want to see the Clippers versus Lakers, so we have something else to talk about. Like you said, there's no USC or UCLA football. You have other foot drinking out of a fire hose right now. I think the glut was a great way to describe it that you just said. But I can't deny they feel cursed. I feel like Lon Chaney is going to show up and slap somebody's head off. It's amazing.
So if the Clippers lose, you mentioned they got Steve Ballmer, they've got a new arena in Inglewood that they want to build. Does Doc Rivers come in for any criticism here based on the talent that they have, which I think everybody out there listening would acknowledge is more substantial than the Nuggets? It's one thing if you lose to the Lakers in the Western Conference Finals and then the Lakers go on and win the NBA title. You can at least think our core is younger than their core. LeBron's obviously going to be 36, I think it is, next year. And you can think with this new arena, there's lots of reasons for optimism. But would Doc Rivers come in for any criticism if after going up 3-1 against an inferior team, they didn't find a way to close it out?
Well, I mean, how do you criticize somebody who's cursed?
Yeah.
It's the mummy's curse. I mean, what can you do about the curse? I mean, look, as far as different moves in an NBA game and what he could have done or didn't do, you can ask your boy Mannix about that, who loves Doc Rivers. But I like Doc Rivers, too. He's a really magnetic personality, and you only have to be in the room with him for about 2 minutes, and he wins you over in a second, and you just feel like everything's going to be okay. I mean, he's really one of those guys. He's very magnetic, and that's why he's had the success he's had. But there's some people that point out that he hasn't won an NBA championship without Tom Thibodeau coordinating his NBA defense like he did with the Celtics, and they beat the Lakers back in 2009, I think, maybe, no, 2006, whatever. The point is, it's been a while. And,
yes.
I mean, they'll all come under criticism. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Doc Rivers, Montrezl Harrell, who had a terrible Game 6, who was the NBA's reigning sixth man, Lou Williams. I mean, there's moments where they look like one of the greatest teams in NBA history, according to Jeff Van Gundy and the defense they're playing. And then there's other moments where it just so easily slips away. It feels like the mummy's curse.
So it is kind of fascinating to think about. When so let's pivot off of the expectation was it was Lakers, Clippers. Lakers have done their part. We'll see whether the Clippers do it on Tuesday. What does it feel like as a big-time college football fan in L.A. to be looking around at all the college football games that are being played? The SEC comes back next week. It seems like the Big Ten, with all their drama, going to be back, I think, on October 17th. And the Pac-12 is now going to be left, it appears, on an island among the Power 5 conferences, not playing. What does that feel like? In the city of Los Angeles now you have the Chargers and you have the Rams, and we'll get to their game here in a little bit. But as a big college football fan, and I know there are a lot of big college football fans in L.A., does it feel strange to watch everybody else like as if they're living a different lifestyle than you are in the L.A. area?
God, I'm a real masochist, aren't I, for
Yes.
coming on here?
Yes.
First of all, I don't think of myself as a college football fan, although I guess this year I am in a lot of ways. I think of myself as a college football analyst. I mean,
yeah.
I've called games nationally since 2004. So
Right.
to answer your question honestly, it was excruciating for me watching the whole thing happen without me. And I try not to have, I try to check my ego and realize that, when I fall off a cliff or whatever, the world's going to keep on turning. No problem. But it was a bit of an identity crisis weekend for me. Last weekend I'd never been in town on Labor Day.
Yep.
This weekend, watching a lot of my colleagues, including my cousin who's in a truck in Kansas with Tim Brando and Spencer Tillman, watching all that and just kind of seeing it unfold was was hard. It was interesting, though. I mean, because I used to do some Conference USA games when Fox Sports 1 started, you remember?
Oh, yeah.
And
you memorably
maybe
got
I
shipped
did.
my suit for one of them.
Yeah, that was a couple years into it down in
Yes.
Boca.
Yes.
But rough day. But I got to say, the teams that are used to playing with nobody in the stands, they came out and punched people in the neck.
That's right.
Because I mean, you saw the pros. I mean, the pros are pros, and they need to go out there and protect their neck, or somebody's going to die. And when they're told to play, they just go play. But with the college kids, it was really a scrimmagey feel. You could tell with those Big 12 teams, and they struggled. Kansas and Iowa State and Kansas State. Now, of course, one of them will turn around and beat Oklahoma in November or something.
And ruin the Big 12 season somehow.
Yeah, that's how it always works out. But I found that really interesting. It does show a big difference between college and pro football, for where it is really, really hard to create your own energy as a college football team. It takes a great deal of discipline. And we saw a few teams that really should have dominated struggle, and it was really interesting. And I'm proud of those Sun Belt teams. I think it's awesome. Their will for football and the passion to play it, even though they come from small places and generally very small schools with different resources. I was endlessly impressed with the Sun Belt and the way they showed up. It was awesome.
We're talking to Petros Papadakis at the Old P on Twitter, AM 570 LA Sports, Petros and Money Show. Okay, NFL and the way it all shook out. I mean, it was amazing to see SoFi Stadium in all of its resplendent glory without any fans present there at all. Have you walked through the stadium at all to see it? I mean, it looked amazing on television, even without fans there. It certainly looks like a palace.
Yeah, I was supposed to be there last night to do our TV show, but we ended up just doing it in studio anyway because of access would have been so limited. I have not been over there. I've declined most invitations. As you know, I don't like going anywhere unless I'm paid to go. I think it's beautiful. I mean, look, I like old things. So my favorite stadiums are the memorial stadiums from World War I. The Nebraska, Cal, the Coliseum here, Illinois. The World War I memorial stadiums with the Greek theme are my favorite stadiums on earth. Now, of course, they're antiquated and really like sewers, but I like them. That being said, I did a Cotton Bowl for the first time and then a Big 12 championship in the Jerry Jones Dome, and it is jaw-dropping, right? Like, even for a guy that hates modern stuff, I mean, I was staring up at that monitor and somebody ran a kick return right up my ass on the sideline. It's an unbelievable experience. And this is supposed to be better, which is hard to imagine because the place in Dallas is so impressive. By all accounts, it's very special. But, of course, no one's allowed to go. So it's a really awkward sell,
Yeah. I mean, I think there's no doubt at all as you start to look through. What did you think about the pass interference calls that won effectively the offensive pass interference calls that interestingly won both the Chargers and the Rams their openers? Do you think both should have been called? The shove on A.J. Green that negated a Bengals touchdown and the alleged shove from Michael Gallup that potentially created a situation that allowed the Rams to escape with a win over the Cowboys?
Yeah, saw them both live. I'm always a guy. I mean, it's a lot like modern NBA now. I mean, these guys' hands on the perimeter are so fast, and they're so good at selling this or that with their bodies that I am always a fan of leaving it in the pocket. The A.J. Green versus Hayward, I mean, those are two great players. I mean, Hayward's one of the best cover corners in the NFL, and I would have just liked to have seen Joe Burrow be able to make that play. And, I mean, it was good physical play by both guys, I thought. And they both, he was grabbing and A.J. pushed off. Same thing with the other one. One guy had a hold of him, and the other guy pushed off, and then Ramsey kind of jerked his body back after the fact. But, of course, we saw it all in slow motion. I thought both flags should have been left in the pocket, but I'm not going to sit here and go on the air and have a conniption fit about it.
Right. Well, that makes you a rarity, and certainly a rarity
well,
here in
put
general.
Pereira on, put Pereira on or Blandino and let him explain it and move on with your lives. I mean, I remember I was a game that I scored 2 different touchdowns that were called back. And the Pac-12 sent us a letter on Wednesday saying, hey, sorry about that. Those were the wrong calls. And it's like, oh, okay, well, we lost. You have to just pick up and move on in those situations. And that's what football, I think that's why the country in many ways is so attracted to the sport, because it's not perfect. It's pretty ugly. It's about overcoming adversity. And that's what you have to do.
There's no doubt. And also the Rams got absolutely an awful call against them when you couldn't have a more ridiculous hands to the helmet hit than Jared Goff got on his interception, and that got missed. So some people would say, including me, that those kind of canceled out. Petros Papadakis, we will talk to you next week, and we will see whether or not by then we are officially underway with the Battle of Los Angeles between the Lakers and the Clippers. Thanks, my man.